Hello, everybody. My name's Gabrielle. I'm the founder of Restaurant Secrets, one of the oldest consultancy firms in the country. And my pleasure today is to talk a topic that I'm personally not very big on. And I have this amazing panel with me. It's about data monetization. And these amazing people here from different companies, small and large, are going to tell us how they make money from what they collect from people like us, the data that we give out so freely, how they use it to grow companies like Albake, to queues that's line up even before you open, apparel group that has, I think, 50 plus franchises right now globally around the world.
More than that.
CityMax and Foodmark, which is part of Landmark, doing amazing things with different brands, and Hero Donuts. So we're going to talk about a topic that everybody is currently concerned with. How do people take our data? What do they do with it? How do we benefit as consumers from that data? And how do companies use that to serve us better and to grow their own companies globally? So maybe, Ketiki, I'll have you answer the first question. As a company, what's the strategy behind collecting data at the start point? And then how do you use that data strategically to manage your portfolio of clients, what they, the products that you serve? And then once you have that, how do you analyze it to maybe expand, to venture to new markets?
So good afternoon, everyone. And we're definitely glad that we have a house full here right now, post-lunch. Thank you for the question, Gab. So how do we analyze data? I mean, the most important is how do you collect data, right? I'll talk on behalf of the company that I currently work for and how do we collect data. So I'm sure everyone knows the loyalty program that we have, which is Shukran, which belongs to the Landmark Group. Yes, that's the biggest source of data that we sit on. We call it our in-house data. It's our data. So that's the one. Second is, of course, when a customer walks in, the Wi-Fi data. We give free Wi-Fi. That's how we market it, as everyone does. Yeah. Free Wi-Fi, and there's nothing free because we're paying with data. So that's how we collect data. How do we use data? I'll go very specific in terms of how do we, or rather I, use that data. Of course, it helps you to create your communication to the customers in a very specific manner. It is very much personalized. I know my customers in and out. I know when the customer has dined in with me, when has he ordered for a delivery, what has he ordered, to the T. So when we analyze this particular data, I know that a specific product is not working for us in a specific brand. I would rather go discontinue that product. So this is just a top level of overall how do we use the data.
And do you feel that you can analyze a life cycle of your guests? Because you run different portfolios, don't you? How do you cross-analyze? You just said that it helps me understand how they are purchasing. What is their purchasing style or patterns? When are they peaking? Maybe weekdays, maybe weekends. How does that help you then to evolve a product specifically to age cycles or seasonal cycles?
So consumer behavior is what we analyze. So that comes to the point where you said, what's the spending power of a consumer? So if I know if a consumer is spending, say, about 100 dirhams in a retail outlet, for example, I'm not going to target him with a 500 dirham offer. Even though it is a F&B offer, I wouldn't do that. I would rather stick into that bracket and talk to them about what they're looking for.
That's excellent. That really allows you to target to the spending power and the needs of the guests. On the other hand, Albake is famous for not having a loyalty program and not capturing that incredible important data that's helping other companies. What's your secret? How do you get those numbers and that global expansion going without a loyalty program?
Actually, hi everyone, I'm really sorry. Actually, I don't want to connect the customer data with the queues happening in Albake because we really don't have a loyalty program. Basically, our main goal in Albake, ServQuest, which is the company having Albake franchise. Sorry, is that okay? We focus a lot on the customer surveys on the counter. So regularly we ask our customers about their feedback, what they like, what they don't like. And I think I'm gonna go against the flow. They always saying who owns data owns everything. No. Economically, politically even now, it's proven it's not true.
That's very interesting.
Yes, it's not true.
Are you referring to privacy laws now?
Sorry?
Are you referring to the privacy laws of how we use people's data?
Exactly.
Which is becoming a big deal now, isn't it? Yeah.
Exactly. There is a big slogan in Albake that we are the neighborhood brand. So we make sure that we fit in the place that we're getting in. We make sure that we suit the place. We talk the same language as the neighbor that we are fitting in. Our product is our key communication. Quality, price point is the key to success. We don't keep data. We don't have any data in the back end as of the moment. We only use our internal data that can help us to design our product mix, design our menu engineering. But basically, our stuff is our interface. So we make sure that we invest in our stuff at the front counter. They are well equipped to understand the customer behavior. We do customer data surveys all the time to understand what our customers want, what they like, what they don't like. And based on that, we take actions.
So how do you compute that when you do your surveys?
So basically, the survey happens on the counter through the POS. And there is a customer survey happen on piece of paper, and we collect that. And
wow.
Yeah, it's very, very old age kind of way of doing surveys. But this is how we connect with our customers.
That's so interesting that two large companies have different ways. I'm going to come to apparel in a second because you have a wealth of information to share on how you do it. But first, I'd like to go to Matthew because with Matthew, I relate a lot because I work with startups. We were just discussing that earlier, the 0 to 100. We don't have data, we don't have the buying power, or when we start off, like most companies, we don't have the kind of information that larger companies have at hand to make decisions. So you, Matthew, you've done a great job with Hero Donuts. Tell us about it. Tell us how did you work and how did you get to where you are today without any data, but just your gut, that entrepreneur's gut.
Good afternoon, everyone. I think the first thing to say is that I've got an incredible business partner who we work very well together. But then in terms of growing a brand, when you start a brand, when you launch something, you can't rely on data. It's a gut feeling. You think people are going to like your product. You think there might be a gap in the market, and then you've got to have belief and you've got to go for that. And myself and my business partner have absolutely done that. But once you do that and once you put yourself out there, then you've made your mistakes, there's things you've got to rectify. And as a very small operator with only 4 stores and running multiple events, we've gone pretty quickly in the 2 years we've been open. There's a huge amount of lessons that we've got to learn about do we know who our customers are properly? Do we know which locations work best for us? We look at sales mix, we do menu engineering, we know what sells well in different areas. So in terms of internal analysis and results, we look at that very well, we understand that. But as a startup brand, in terms of customer data, we collect it, but I don't want to use that data. I don't want to use that data. And the reason I don't want to use it is because we fundamentally believe that brand for us currently is everything. Brand is everything. Now, we've got to be creating the most innovative products, we've got to have the most innovative locations, we've got to have great staff serving. There's a whole ecosystem of F&B, and I'm sure everybody in the room knows how hard it is of what you have to deliver and what you have to drive. And then hopefully people will follow us. I think there's a great author, I can't remember his name, Seth somebody, who talks about having a tribe. And I fundamentally believe we've got to get a tribe of people who want to know what Hero's doing, where they're going to do next, what pop-up they're doing, what events are they at, what are they going to launch, what merchandise they're doing. And once we've got those tribe of people, then we'll start using data, because people will want to be part of that, will want to be part of the brand. And if we don't do that with our database, we'll become like the 27 messages I will have just had in the last 5 minutes trying to get me to buy things. I'm not interested. But brands that I'm engaged with, Adidas, there's an amazing concept in London called BOW, which is run by JKS. As soon as they send me something, I'm immediately engaged and I want to be part of it. So it's really interesting hearing what you guys have got to say. And we're in such a different position, but I guess in a year's time, in 2 years' time, hopefully we've got a loyal enough following on social media and people who buy into us that we can start to offer our followers, our tribe, things that they are genuinely interested in, rather than just a blanket 50% discount, but innovative things. Come and try this at a certain period of time when other people can't have it. Lots of innovative and different ways of doing it. So we're in a very different position, but for me, the key is brand and brand building, and then wanting people to follow us, and then using this data at a later time.
So if, there are people sitting here who are small business owners, maybe they're dreaming of opening a place like yours, or are currently running a small brand and are fighting with this challenge every day, or the dilemma, do I invest in computing, collecting data, or do I build my brand? What would you advise them to do at this point?
We're in the F&B business. You're here to make people happy. You're here to give them an experience. You're here to make them enjoy themselves. So how do they do that? They might see a really innovative post on social media. It doesn't have to be perfectly filmed. They might walk past your store and it looks great. You might have incredible packaging with your delivery. But if you're going to build a brand and launch a brand, work hard to find out who your customers are and gain your customers by doing an absolutely fantastic job and working really hard for your customers. Not buying data and saying, I want you to be your customers. The market is saturated. If you just buy a database and say, I want you to be my customer, you're not going to get anywhere. We've got to work really, really hard.
It never works. I mean, I'm blocking more people every day on my SMS, on WhatsApp,
100%.
and on phone calls constantly.
And it puts you off that
work.
brand.
Yeah,
It puts you off. So I don't want to be plaguing people with messages. We had a message from a lady the other day that said, please stop messaging us. And I was heartbroken. I found out who she was. I called her, I apologized, I took her off all the mailing lists, because that's the last thing. People should engage with you and want to be part of what you do.
Yeah. I remember a few years back, maybe 5 or 6 years back, we were so big on the e-flyers, HTML flyers, which had to go out for a ladies' night, had to go out for a brunch. They were just the norm, and they would have a response rate. They would have a bounce back as well as a response, but now it's almost non-existent, because email is no longer even a channel to reach someone anymore, isn't it? So that avenue is closed, and people are using WhatsApp and other sources. But it just becomes such an invasion of privacy if it's not a brand that you've engaged with or want to go further with, right?
And I think one of the key points here is social media, because as a consumer, you can see you're surrounded by thousands of images every day. So you buy into what you like. It's almost like you can't force it onto people anymore. In the old days, you probably could, but how many different options do you have as a consumer?
So social media is one of the biggest tools, isn't it, for everybody to see how our ads performs or how our posts and reels engage. I think we get really good data of those metrics that are posted by Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. I'm going to come to you, Atish, now, because I know that when we were discussing earlier, you really wanted to talk about how Apparel Group is holding a wealth of data and how you use it in different ways. I remember you saying loyalty programs is a huge way for you to compute and to monetize your data. So we'll go away now from this conversation of, small companies like us that use it in a different way and depend on it in a different way, and go into how Apparel Group grows its portfolio with it.
Thank you for this question. First, I would like to just kind of break the ice. Every brand we open is a small when we start. Even as a big group, when we take up a new brand, it's small, and our approach is like we are doing it first time. So Nothing to take away from a smaller company, but yes, at that point in time also, we always look at the data. Overall data strategy at Apparel, it's quite structured in a sense. So we look at industry data. We do not limit it to customer data. So first and foremost, we look at the industry data or the geographical data or the economy data when we are trying to look at the market or starting a new brand or starting a new location. So new country entry does not happen unless we have that data check done. So that's the first part. The second is corporate level data. By the way, the first one we gather it from market research consultants, stat economics, Euromonitor, and then we also use sometimes consultants if data is not readily available. The second part is the corporate level data, which is apparel group data, and we have a huge resource called Club Apparel, something similar to Shukran. So currently we have 7.2 million members across GCC, which is a big part of target customer base of this segment which we operate in, which is mid to luxury brand. And it takes care of fashion, footwear, and F&B. So it's of course, it's one of the best way to launch a brand or gauge customer sentiments before we actually start anything new. So that's another data set. And then we have brand level data. Now that brand level data is something similar to a brand which has just started. And we do not limit it to customer again. So POS data is the aggregators data, is the social media data. So Club Apparel is for corporate. Brand data is more on the brand and any campaigns which we do at the time of launch. And overall industry data is, these are the three main segments at our side.
You know what I really agree with and I find very interesting is when you say industry level, so you're always entering new markets, right? And you don't know how a new market will accept a brand. And I think a smart company will always take a brand with some local intelligence and get some research to know what they're working with. So again, this could be something for both Albaik and for apparel because you've just entered the UAE market. We were talking, it's a smaller market. You come from a huge market where you already know your consumers' habits, and you are in the habit of venturing into expanding into different areas. When you do those kind of movements, when your brand is now going into new territory and has succeeded with, let's say, a part of that target market. So we're in the GCC. Yeah. There's a kind of a demographic mix here, right? Because there's a performance in Saudi that is similar. There's a performance here of the consumer that's similar, but so different in price points and mentality. Are you telling me that we don't need a good data analysis? Are you saying that UAE can perform the same way that Saudi can if we don't invest more into reading through maybe not loyalty programs, but through point of sale, readings on what time we queued up, what was the price points, what was the age of the person. I'd love to hear how you utilize international markets or how you look at international markets to shift your way of thinking and making sure you're going to succeed there the same way you did in the current market.
So there are two parts to this. One, of course, we do not do geographic new market entry every now and then. But when we have a country which we already have infrastructure upon, then we kind of add new brands. And when we add new brands, we do competition mapping. That's the first and foremost. We look at customer demographics, whether there is enough, if there is customer who is interested in that offering of the new brand, and is there enough of them? And so many times it happens that you have a brand which is working in one part of in one country, but in the same way, it may not work in the different context. So a brand which is performing very well in UAE probably may not do well in Jeddah or somewhere else. So what are those adjustments? And that's what is painstaking time. Copy pasting one brand from one place to another place is quite easier process, but research before and actually mapping out a business model is what important, and that's where the data plays a big role.
Ketki, I think you're one of the most brilliant marketing persons I have come across, because I saw you last year at the same conference, and you represented another brand, which I won't say now because.
I'm going to say that brand's more. It's
But
fine.
I thought it was brilliant because you had such a strategic way of thinking, and I think you're bringing that same element into the company you're with today. I want to talk strategy. I want to hear how that data that we all know it is available. It sits there. It's millions of dirhams worth data sitting in point of sales in hands of our people, who can actually, if you had a conversation, tell you more about your consumer habits than any computer can. I want to know strategy. How do you build your marketing strategy, acquisition and sales strategy from data collection?
So I'm glad that you asked me this question immediately after the strategy expansion for markets and all of that. So touching the point of marketing, so fine, we understand, we have a strategy, we get into a market. I can't have a similar menu in every market, right? And that is what comes from the market research. So I asked myself this question, is market research or researchers in a bigger portfolio, are they also a part of data monetization? And clearly, yes. So I worked for 2 brilliant brands before my current brand. And I'm glad both the bosses are in-house today here, and they've been on the stage as well. So I'll start with Nando's. I worked for Nando's in the UAE for almost 8 years, and the brand has taught me so much. It's very heavy on strategizing based on data. So very simple example of, there's an in-house survey that is done. Pretty much everyone does that nowadays, and it's very important how do you analyze that data, right? I am an absolute believer of, if you don't have the bandwidth, just don't get there, just don't do it. Because you're just wasting your marketing bucks, your energy, and you're not going to get anything out of it. So my experience specifically was, we used that data. Initially, it was just used for what's the NPS, how many reviews are we getting, what are customers talking. Just decided to do a little deep dive and understand, what are people talking about my menu? What do they like from my menu? A bigger picture, everyone loves Nando's, yes we do. But what do they like? Why do they like? Can I change anything? Just a very simple analysis, and I understood, I'm sure everyone's tried Nando's here, and with the chicken you have like 7 or 8 sides with it, and the 2 sides weren't really doing well, and people said, we don't really like them. It's a very simple thing, we just took it off. What did that do? Obviously saved, my operations team was very happy. It was a complicated product to make, the cost was high, everything. It's in turn data monetization, right? I used that data and I saved money somewhere down the line. The other brand that I worked for is Jollibee. Again, extremely data, strategy, and research, and I learned so much. We kind of wanted to understand then, what do people think about the brand? And that's where your research came into picture. We tweaked menus, the look and feel, things like these, very small things. You can't really see an immediate effect like, I changed my menu or my color of the packaging and I see 10 people walking in. It has a long haul effect on the brand. Yes, we did see that as well. A very simple thing on not only campaigns, or when you do a campaign, when you do a product launch, you can also monitor data post a campaign is done, or post product launches. And that is where, again, we did that. And we understood which channel of marketing worked for the campaign. So now I do know as a marketeer, where am I supposed to focus, which channel worked for me, and I'm not wasting my money on some channel that's not going to work for me, because my audience is reciprocating. They want to see and hear something about this brand through this channel.
And this is something for each one of you, if you can help me understand and the audience. the algorithms. So, we're talking strategy, we're talking marketing. That's a great way to reach out through socials. But are we able to get anywhere with them? Because they keep on changing their algorithms all the time, isn't it? I mean, every year I find myself getting a bit frustrated. Something worked last week and next week it's another trend. That's what the Gen Z is. That's where we're headed. And our products and our way of doing business needs to match with what's happening out there. So if each one of you could help me understand the data from the marketing based on algorithms, based on your marketing people insisting every time, we're trying our best, but it's a trial and error thing. We don't know. Nobody knows what really works until you see it, and then you ride it when it works. So can we talk a little bit about that part of our business, the marketing algorithms and how they affect us?
Yep. So, I mean, I would connect it with data monetization. Ultimately, when we say data monetization, in its pure form, it's selling data. I mean, there are companies who does sell data, which is very simple, a name and a number and an email. That's probably the lowest form of data monetization, I would say, and most of the companies don't do it, but even the ones which does it, they don't get much out of it because there isn't quality data and there is no strategy towards it. The second form is revenue boosting exercise with data monetization, which is probably sending another message through algorithm. You send a promotion, or probably you send a new product launch. So in some way, you are trying to communicate with the customer base and asking them to transact more with you, or within the same transaction, get more revenue out of them. So that's probably the second part of data monetization. And the third and the most relevant, which in my view is decision making through data. So if we have quality data where you transform the data which is being sold in the market into some sort of information which helps you take right decisions, decisions which can make you grow, decisions which can better the customer service, decisions which can actually help you build the business in a better way. I think that's the sort of data monetization we should be looking at. At Apparel Group, we probably focus on the second and the third, and we are blessed that we have this loyalty program, which is all across. We have got complete details of our members to the level that what kind of where they are shopping, which all brands they are shopping, so we kind of gauge at which level they are in terms of their financial capabilities and the trend. So if somebody is shopping at Aldo and is going to Tommy Hilfiger, then we can obviously know that we can shop at Charles & Keith and dine in Jamie Oliver and can go to Sushi Library.
Is there any particular software you use or technology that you can share with us that helps you do this better?
So Club Apparel is a loyalty program. We collect data through making the members, and when they redeem, they fill out the full form. So that's first part. We do customer feedbacks. We have social media also, we get some sort of data. So all this data gets into CRM platform, which we use. So the customer relationship management is where the whole data is getting crunched, and it comes out with reports, and it is also query based, where we know that, okay, this particular brand in this particular mall we would like to open. Is there enough customer? What is the demographic in that particular mall? What is the frequency? What is the kind of family size? Are they shopping alone, or they are going with with friends or family? Age. So basically all this put together, it creates and gives us some sort of insight into whether is it possible to make a successful venture out in that particular place. So that's what is data monetization in our senses, and not necessarily sending a communication or marketing through algorithm and trying to get them back more.
Yeah, so I agree with you, because at that level that you're working and the loyalty programs you have, that makes sense. You have data in your fingertips and your main focus is to compute it. When you're not working with loyalty programs, are you depending on social? Are you looking at Saudi Arabia as a market that uses maybe Snapchat more? What do you do in UAE? What does UAE use? How do you compute? I'm sure you are depending on socials, right?
Let me start with what you mentioned about algorithm. And we cannot talk about data monetizing algorithm without mentioning delivery aggregators, right? Because this is their strength.
Yeah.
And without putting names, we have two different examples from a company who owns data, use it very well. Other one who has a lot of data, I'm not putting names. Another one having a lot of data, but he cannot really utilize it. Okay? So it's not a problem of having the data, it's a problem of how you can utilize the data.
So true.
And I will answer your second question about the Al-Baik and the Saudi. And obviously Al-Baik in Saudi is very similar to Jollibee concept, which led by Mr. Hisham. There is a sentimental loyalty already in the market before having the customer database and software and everything else. The brand exists in those countries a long, long way back. And they build the brand, and I want to again say what he said right now. Building the brand is very important. So they have built the brand, and they connect the brand with the customers very, very well. And from there, they took their expansion plan and strategic moves. Where to go, how to go, based on continuously studies the customer behavior. So I think database is important. I'm not against loyalty program, but how to use them in the right time is the key.
Yeah. True. Do you agree with that, Ketski?
I do, of course. So going back to algorithms, that's like our playground, right? As marketeers. Social media, algorithms, we're frustrated.
I can see how excited you are right now. Yeah.
Oh my God, yes. You can never trust the algorithm because like you said, something that worked yesterday, it's not going to work today. The best example, we operate two brands in Saudi Arabia, Nando's Saudi and Zafran. I run a similar ad campaign for both the brands, pretty much close to each other, geo-targeted ads, everything. The similar ad works for brand 1 but does not work for brand 2. And does anyone have an answer to this? Why is it not? And no one can answer that. And that is where the beast algorithm sits in. And you don't have an answer to that. So again, now here is the thing, like you said, we sit on a massive database, of loyalty database, but we can still go wrong at times. I have targeted the specific customer. I know where he's shopping. I know what he's eating. But I run a social media ad, and it doesn't work. So there's always the A/B testing there that you need to be open to. That's critical. That's what we need to live with. And going back to what Ala said about aggregators,
Yeah.
very important.
I think, and just to add on the algorithm and the social media companies, I think it's remarkable how much we invest, and then they change the terms, and you don't know anything about it. I mean, I'm 48, I've never seen anything like it, so we push, and I mean, we're 100% social media focused. That's how we created our brand, that's how we live, but we invest a lot of money and something works, and we're like, great, and then it's like, well, actually, no, we've changed something. I'm like, okay, thank you very much, and we've had great successes on Instagram, and we run ads, and we get some data from ads, so we sort of understand our audience, and then it switches again. And just as we're getting to terms with Instagram, we've got the horrors of TikTok that arrive, and what do you do with TikTok? We try to put our product on there, people on interested, then we jump on a trend, and suddenly we got a video that I think had 350,000 views when we did this giant donut tower at a school. And the way you've got to look at these social media companies, try and work out how you're going to get most traction there, who you're after, what people want to see, but then have different policies for Snapchat, which we don't use very well at the moment, different policies for TikTok and different policies for Instagram, is quite remarkable. But there's also the challenge then of filming that correct content and getting that right. And to start with, you could publish lovely photos and put some nice text, and everything was okay. And now it's driven by videos and different styles of filming.
Music.
Music.
Yeah. Sometimes it's the music.
We have music
that
on our
can get you
videos,
go viral.
and I say, what is this music? And they say it's trending, and I'm like, trending where? Where is that trending? Because it's just awful, and then we get great views. So I leave it to our amazing marketing team and sales team to do that.
Well,
But
it's
as
so
far as it works,
As long as it works, yeah. Yeah.
And the interesting part is that we all face the same challenges, no matter how small or big the company, because we all have to start somewhere. We all start at zero, and then as we go along, the challenge I'm understanding or the strategy should be more of how you collect it and then what you do with it. And how do you find new innovative ways to use that data, analyze it, and then use it to grow markets, to understand consumers, to prove product, until they come and they change it all over again with a whole new generation that has a whole new way of buying. Shall we give the audience some time to ask you people questions? Do we have time for that?
It's 9 minutes.
9 minutes 32.
We do, right?
Yeah, we could.
We have a lot.
So,
Let me come over to you. There you go. Is it on? What number is it? Yeah, there you go.
Can you hear me, guys? Can you hear me? Hi.
Yeah.
So, as you know, we're about to enter the cookieless world, right? So the cookies are about to be banned. And you know that post iOS 14 update, it's impossible to track customer journeys, right? So from your perspective, do you see in the future, in the near future, where companies with big data partnering up with other retailers to create data hubs? I'll give you an example. So I'm from Americana Restaurants. We have a lot of data. So let's say, for example, I'm just picking on someone. Let's say Matthew, for example. He orders a bucket on a Thursday night, but I just know Matthew from his name and his email address. But I don't know Matthew as a person. Do you think, for example, in the future you will see companies partnering up with other big data warehouses to basically get a one customer view to understand more about Matthew as a person? Is he a family man? Do you see this is where the future is heading?
I think things will go that way 100%.
It's the other way.
No, I think there'll be a constant push to understand the customer more and more to levels that I find some of this quite scary, the way data is used. It doesn't seem, for me, it doesn't seem right that, you think you're just going shopping and you're going to the mall to buy a few things, or you're buying some donuts, and the way that people understand what you do and target you and things is, for me, it's a real change from when I started growing restaurants. And I think you're absolutely right. I think it will continue to grow and to change, where companies know absolutely everything about you, where you shop, what your family do, where everything is. And I think that there needs to come to be a point where that's limited to a certain degree, because it's almost like an invasion of privacy. And I can't see, particularly with the things in the news about AI and the way things that are developing, I think it's a situation that we really need to think about. It's like the films you see where I think you walk past a screen and all this thing comes up about your family and what you do, and we've got to do something to limit it. But I think you're absolutely right. I can see that developing.
I agree, and Google is one of the, if you're talking big data, they own everything, right? They own us, basically. They know what we're doing, where we're going. So big data exists in really big hands and is being used in crazy ways. I'm being fed every day what Google thinks I want to see because of my habits of viewing where I visit, what I do, where I travel. It's like they know us completely, and that's how big data is being exploited. Yeah. We're still at that level. We had this conversation, do we go into big data today, or do we talk about data that is relevant to our industry? And we wanted to talk more about how we as small or medium-sized companies monetize the data that's in our hands that we don't have access to like Google or the others have. Anybody else?
Any more questions?
Actually, I wanna answer his question as well. There is something that we do in ServQuest and Albake. Can you hear me now? Yeah, all right. So in ServQuest and Albake, we do something actually very differently. When we start building our drive-through, normally in the other brands, you go buy your car, you place the order, then the next step that you collect your order and so on and so on. We made sure that we have a human being, staff, one of our people, actually outside, obviously when the weather is okay, talking to the customers, taking the orders, understand their behavior, understand how they like Albake, because we want to humanize our brand. We don't want everything to be computerized or depending on AI or depending on customer database from the big companies. So I don't want to sound like we're going against the flow, but we're trying to humanize everything that we do.
It's really refreshing to hear things like that.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Yeah.
It's just about old-fashioned customer service,
Exactly.
great product at the right price, working hard and looking after your customers. It's really refreshing.
Thank you.
Okay.
You can see why the brand's so
And
successful.
obviously works very well.
Thank you.
Possibly I would not completely, but
Yeah.
disagree to a certain level as a digital marketer. I get access to more information in a larger scope if I use Google, right? This definitely is a very personalized and a very human element involved in this bit. But for me, I would say if I'm a casual diner, my restaurant manager would by default do that in a restaurant when you do a table check, right? I would rather use it in that aspect, but knowing your customer is the whole idea. So just to your question, Google does it. They do it, but that's only digital.
So my question was more about, do you see like two companies, for example? Let's take, I'm just making
Just really quickly, because we've got some other questions and we're running
So
out
my
of time.
question was more about two big companies. Let's say, for example, Majidul for them, for example, right? So they have, So do you see two companies joining hands together to get a better customer view? That's basically where I think potentially where the future is heading.
For
Well,
sure, if GDPR allows.
So we have evaluated this. So we had numerous requests to get onto club apparel by various individual brands. We haven't opened that up so far because data is something which is of utmost value to us. However, we also looked at some point in time something which is not competing and which could kind of probably, if it is not hitting our business, then probably we can look at it. However, we have again decided not to monetize data by selling it or kind of letting somebody else take benefit of our effort.
Okay. Do you want to ask you a question?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My question is very simple, actually. Data is a power. Data is a weapon, in my opinion. If we don't use it well, it can fire back at us. Having a data in a company makes you kind of responsible of those, the owner of that data. How can you protect them from misuse and put some controls in-house? I'm not talking about international law. We know how that works. I'm talking about in-house control. How can you put a mechanism to control this? Thank you.
So I have a view on this when it comes to data privacy. Also, whatever I speak is, I'm not a legal expert here. So international privacy laws is out of question here. But data privacy is in general, I divide into two. One, I get customer data or their details, and I have responsibility to protect it, to not misuse it. And at the same time, I have my internal data, which somebody else should not misuse it. So these are the two parts. So first part, regardless of what international law is, number one, if you are taking consent from them to use the data, that's number one. And that consent should not be taken as on verbal or something. It has to be explicit consent, where you can track back if customer comes back to you and tells you, oh, I didn't give you this consent, then you should have some way to prove it. So that's number one. Number two, customer should transparently know that for what purpose his details is being used. And he should have access throughout. If after 6 months somebody wants to know that for what purpose my details are being used, it should be right up there. And it should be easily accessible. And number three, if customer at some point in time feels after 5 years also that I don't want to be part of this, there should be easy way out. If you are taking care of these three things, generally you are safe from data privacy law. When it comes to our data, which can be attacked by somebody else, it's of course, it's a big black hole in there, and every day the new strategies hackers are taking up. People are also phishing in your data. So that's something to take care by IT, and in most cases, this is specialized companies who takes it on contractual basis.
Thank you very much, everybody, for your questions. Thank you, Atish, for that
Thank you.
answer. And thank you, Ketki, Ala, and Matthew for your time today. I think we've all learned a lot and wish you all good luck with your data collection and strategies and how you use it. Thank you.
Thank you, Gabriel.
Thank you so much, Gabrielle, for being our wonderful moderator.